From the New York City area, welcome to the Badass Counseling Show, where the master badass himself, Sven Erlandson, takes you deep and gives balm for the soul, baby.
Ooh, this is so exciting. This is great. It's a lightning round episode. It's a great day to be alive. Great day to be alive. And you are here with us, and we are here with you, and it's warm and cozy. So let's dive in. This is a lightning round episode. I am the host of the Badass Counseling Show. My name is Sven Erlandson. I'm joined in studio by my team, KC, over in the booth, and Rob the Rocket next to me. Rob, what say ye?
Good evening, sir. I'm ready to go. I'm just all fired up.
Yeah?
I don't know why.
Yeah?
I just had a big cup of coffee. Maybe that's it.
Doing an evening taping, folks.
That's right.
And Rob decides to have coffee. So when I get a cranky text message tomorrow morning at 7, or I text him and he says, "What the fuck you texting me for?" I'll be like, "Hey, you're the one that drank coffee. I don't care that you fell asleep at 2 in the morning." All right.
So I won't be up at 7.
Exactly. You hit the off thing. All right. So here we go. We're taking your questions and let's go. All right. M. Satitude says, how do you get your husband to listen to you when you tell him the love cup is empty? Well, you know what? I got a couple answers to that. One, and I'm not trying to be a dick when I say this, all right? If I'm being really honest with you, you're asking for my help, I'm going to give you help. And I'm going to answer this a couple different ways. My question to you is, I'm going to talk to your husband right here, and I'm going to say, because he's saying to me, how do you get your wife to listen when I keep telling her with my actions, I don't want to fill her love cup? All of his actions are telling you he has no interest in filling your love cup, but you're not listening. Now, again, I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm not trying to be a dick, but that's just fact. His actions are clearly indicating that he has no interest in filling your love cup. And you're not listening because you don't want it to be true. You keep wanting him to be different from what he is. You keep wanting him to change. And no matter what you say, he's not changing. And you're not listening. You don't want it to be true because you're scared. I guarantee you have some grand fear in this. Maybe it's the fear in walking away. Maybe it's the fear in not having someone or having to navigate life alone or something. There is some grand fear. But I'm going to go back. I'm not going to reverse engineer your question like I just did. Let's just play the ball as it lies. How do you get your husband to listen to you when you tell him the love cup is empty? The mere fact that you have been saying it over and over and over again, it doesn't say he doesn't listen. I guarantee he has heard it all. And you want to know how I know? I'll tell you how I know. Because the day is going to come when you're sick of living like this. When the day is going to come when you are sick of your love cup being empty. And when your pain has gotten so bad that you reach what I talk about in my book, There's a Hole in My Love Cup, when you reach what's called the fuck it point. When you wake up one day or you're driving to the grocery store and you're just like, that's it. It's it. And you'll just know. And it's not thinking about it. It's not hoping for it. It's just like, you just know I'm done. And you'll walk away and you'll have the clarity to do what just yesterday you weren't sure about. You'll have the courage to do what just yesterday you didn't have the courage to do. And then you want to know what you'll discover? You will discover that he sees you differently all of a sudden. Why? Because now he knows you're not fucking around. Because your whole demeanor, your whole countenance, your carriage, everything changes. Because now it's not even that you're standing up to him. Now it's just, I'm just walking away. And now it's not idle threats. Now it's not begging or cajoling or encouraging or coaxing. Now it's just, I'm leaving. And you'll put the piece in place. It's a different kind of strength and he will feel it. And guess what he's going to do? I guarantee it. He's going to fucking change. And he's going to all of a sudden take an interest in what you want. He's going to all of a sudden say, how was your day? He's going to all of a sudden be helping with chores. He's all of a sudden going to all of the things you've been asking for, he's all of a sudden going to be, and you're going to be like, oh my God, he's finally the man I want him to be. And you're going to consider going back. In fact, you may actually go back because it's like, I have to give it a try now. Now he's changed. But the truth is, that's, first of all, that's your proof that he's been listening the whole time. Otherwise, how the fuck would he know to change? Because he's been hearing you the whole fucking time. So it's not that he's not hearing you. It's just that right now he has no incentive to change. But once you leave, once he knows your energy is shifted and it's like, oh shit, she's serious. Now he changes. So that says he got the message all those times. There was just no incentive. There's no pain point. That's why he's not changing. It's not that he's not listening. It's just that you haven't put the fucking screws to him. All right. So he's going to change in all likelihood. Either that or he'll let you walk away, which is an even clearer indication that you're making the right decision. But that likely won't happen. Because why? Because right now you are meeting his needs. Right now you are pouring love into his love cup and he doesn't have to do a goddamn thing. Why would he? There's no pain point. You don't hold his feet to the fire. There's no incentive to change. But once you start walking away, he all of a sudden begins to lose one of his love sources, right? His primary love source. So now he's changing. Except the problem is you can change your behaviors, but if you don't change the core beliefs driving those behaviors, those changes will not stick. Boom, guaranteed. So guess what's going to happen? If you haven't changed, then when he starts to slide back, and I'd bet my left testicle if Vegas were giving me odds, that when he starts to slide back and maybe not go to counseling as much or stop reading my book or he's not asking about your day as much, you're not going to catch it. Because you've already slid back into your patterns of, oh, well, it's not that bad, or he's still doing it a little bit, or I'm sure he'll start trying again. You'll start making excuses for it again because you haven't changed. So it's not about whether or not the other person has changed. That's why I always tell you guys, you have to change. Otherwise, you will not hold their feet to the fire when they start sliding back into their old fucking patterns. So how do you get your husband to listen? There's got to be a pain point, and you are not applying it because you're still trying to get him to listen. And the mere fact that you're still trying says he ain't fucking listening. He doesn't have to because you're not putting this fucking screws to him. Next question. All righty, Aphrodite. What have we got here? How do I start a conversation with my young adult kids about leaving their father? I'm pretty sure they know we aren't doing well. Okay, so if I'm hearing you correctly, basically you want to leave your husband and you have anxiety about leaving it because of the kids. And you're basically saying, if I'm hearing you, how do I start a conversation with my young adult kids about leaving their father? The thing I would want to ask you is, if we were in person, is how much of this decision of whether or not to do it, first of all, are you planning to do it? How much of the decision hasn't been made yet? Are you waiting to make the decision? But even more importantly, what percentage of this decision to leave your husband, what percentage of the decision is up to your kids in your brain? Where you're literally letting them make the decision. Now, you didn't say they're young kids. You didn't say they're teenagers. You said young adults. So I'm placing that as over 20. All right? Bit random, but you're a bit, young adult. We'll just put it there. So now it's not about, unfortunately, young adults, guess what they do? Guess what they don't do that small children do when it comes to divorce? Young adults generally don't deal with their feelings. A small child will naturally, if they're allowed to, cry, yell, scream, cry, yell, yell, scream, get mad, yell, scream, cry. That's exactly what you want. Why? Because the body is discharging the negative energy. Guess what young adults generally won't do with their emotional stuff? Especially if there's been a lot of drama in the home between mom and dad, and maybe there hasn't been room for the kids' stuff. They're going to stuff that shit back down. And they're not going to let their own feelings out. Maybe one of the kids will, and then maybe the other one or two won't. And you'll think, oh, the other two, they're so well adjusted. They're taking it so well. No, those are the ones you got to worry about because it's going to bite them in the ass in their own marriages or in their careers or 15 years from now. Getting it out, that's the one that's actually closer to healthy, even though they look like a train wreck right now. My question is, how much of your decision to leave their father are you abdicating to the children? Because fundamentally, it's not their fucking decision. And how much are you waiting to do what needs to be done because you're wanting to cushion the blow for them and so forth? And that's all good. But are you abdicating the decision? Are you waiting for your children to give you permission to end a marriage that you know needs to end? In other words, are you basically putting the responsibility for it onto the kids when you're the fucking adult? And I'm not trying to chew your ass here, PQ. I'm really not. I'm just saying, don't put that on the kids, man. Just be the adult. So I'm going to answer your question then. How do I start the conversation with my young adult kids? First of all, the way you start the conversation is by asking yourself first, is this a decision? Have you made the decision? Because if you haven't made the decision, why are you talking about it with your kids? You're going to create so much fucking angst inside of them. If you haven't made the decision, that means you might actually decide not to. So then why are you creating this unrest inside of them? Because you need someone to talk to? No, that's what your therapist is for. That's what your favorite auntie is for. That's what your best friend is for, to talk it out with. You say, how do I start a conversation with my young adult kids about leaving their father? So I'm going to assume that you have already made the decision. You say, I'm pretty sure they know we aren't doing well. And that almost says you haven't made the decision. If you have made the decision, then you open up the conversation with the kids and you say, listen, I am leaving your father. It has to be done. It's been over for a while. I love you very much. Let's talk about your feelings. I strongly recommend we get you into counseling, but I am open to hearing everything. You have every right to be mad at me. You have every right to be mad at your father. Let's talk out your feelings, and you have every right to talk it out. You don't have to get too deeply into specifics, but you can, and keeping it vague, and with some measure of reasoning, but without specifics, because to some degree, it's not their business what goes on in the specific relationship between you and your husband, because then it's getting into mudslinging. And I guarantee part of your reasoning is X, Y, and Z of what's wrong with him, and part of his reasoning is going to be X, Y, and Z that's wrong with you. But the bottom line is you really need to keep an eye on whether or not you're asking them for permission or hoping they'll make the decision by saying, you should do it, Mom, or you should do it, Dad. And I get a lot of parents say, well, it's when my kids told me I should leave. That's when I finally left. It's like, come on. Don't put that shit on the kids. Be the adult. Make the decision. Make the hard decision. Look your kids in the face and take your lumps, because they're going to be upset about it, because the two people they love the very most in the world, the very two people they love the most in the world are splitting, and they need to get their shit out. That's what you be focused on, is helping them get all their pain and their sadness out, in addition to you doing it already, or doing it yourself. All right, next question.
I got a good one here.
All right, go for it, Rob.
Over on YouTube, someone with the handle My Cool YouTube Channel 2021 says, let's just call this person My Cool. How do I work through my non-physical sexual trauma and turn sex from something that is emotionally triggering into something I can appreciate?
Well, there's a couple things, My Cool. There are a couple of things you can do. One, there are sexual trauma therapists, right? And I'm assuming you've already thought of that. And so the fact that you aren't actually doing that, but you're asking about it here, which is fine, says that you opted not to go that direction. But there are sexual trauma therapists who would be happy to help you with that. In addition, that is a piece that a lot of regular therapists deal with as well, if you didn't want to see a specialist. But fundamentally, what you've got to ask yourself is, where did this originate? Part of where you want to start your digging. And you may not be able to drill just by asking that question down to the original source, but start digging around. What are the events that have happened in my life that are causing me to have sexual trauma? So, for instance, in my personal case, do I have sexual trauma from my life? Yes. Yes, I think you've heard me talk about it when I lost my virginity. I was 16, and we were over in New Brighton, and my best friend Dave, he was dating a girl, and we were over in their porch. And back in the late 70s, early 80s, air conditioning in our blue-collar neighborhoods was not common, and so his girlfriend, they had an outdoor porch that was screened in, and they had beds out there, and so they'd sleep out there in summer in Minnesota, and it had to be screened in because you've never seen mosquitoes like you've seen in Minnesota. Anyway, she was sleeping out there. She had a friend visiting from Colorado. They invited us over, and he climbed in one bed with his girlfriend, and I climbed in bed with Colorado. And, I had sex with her, my very first time in my life. And right when I finished, my best friend and his girlfriend started laughing at me and said, Sven, slow down. So literally from my first intercourse, I'd had sex, but not sexual intercourse. I was being laughed at by the fucking peanut gallery of my best friend. No mixed emotions there. No trauma there. And then my first wife, when we'd get in our biggest rage fights, she would tell me how little my dick was and how unfulfilling and bad in bed I was. No, there's no fucking trauma there. And then another long-term relationship I was in, the woman had a fixation with very large penises. Well, I'm not very large. I'm quite average, just very average. And she made it known, her dissatisfaction with me. So you think I've had some fucking shit? Yeah. Plus, there was an assault at one point in my life, when I was an adult. Yes, even a big guy. So what's the point? the point is,
And you do have one.
well, it's just fun to tell the stories.
The point is, don't have sex in front of an audience, I think.
yeah, but when you're 16 and you got a pretty girl and her nickname is Colorado, I mean, how do you say no to that?
You
audience.
don't.
It's like, I'll take the audience. And who knew the audience was going to laugh? I expected an ovation. I don't know what I expected. Anyway, boobies. Anyway, the point is, what? In order for me to have any hopes of, happiness in sexual relations, I had to go into those experiences and journal the absolute fuck out of them and how it felt and the insecurities that I feel when I go into bed with a woman. And I've been in a relationship with the same woman for 11 years, and how performance oriented it is for me. And now that's pretty common for a lot of guys, but it's just like that, making sure they're satisfied first, going down on a woman, making sure she has an orgasm before I even start. It's just like all the shit that I had to go into on me. So you're wondering, cool over there on YouTube, how do you, heal from your shit? You got to go into it, man. And you just got to start asking yourself questions and writing about it. Well, what was I feeling then? But why wasn't I feeling this? And what's different from this experience and that experience? Dig around and get out your fucking feelings and dig around some more. Well, why this? And just keep exploring it, because what you're fundamentally doing is you're normalizing the conversation with yourself about this highly emotionally charged subject. And what makes it so difficult, what the sexual experience is difficult, is because of the emotional charges inside. And every time we talk about something, every time we allow ourselves to think about something, every time we flush out feelings about something, we are fundamentally destigmatizing it in our own brains, in our own selves. We're flushing out the emotion. Therefore, we're not being controlled by those emotions. I got an email today that I did not want to read. All right? It was from, it's from my doctor telling me I had to get a colonoscopy. No, there was a separate letter. Yeah, I'm due for my next colonoscopy. A separate letter. It's like, fuck, I know what's in there. I don't want to deal. Why? Because there's an emotional charge attached to that letter, because I know what the fuck is in there. All right? And so you've got these memories, and until you get those out, they're still charged, and that's affecting you when you're going into new sexual experiences. And so until you go into that shit and flush and flush and flush, tell that story, feel those feelings, give those feelings an exit point through your pen, through your talking it out with your therapist. They're going to stay in you and fuck you up. Next question.
Sven, by the way, my cool, I'm not sure. I can't tell by the little picture if it's a man or a woman. Would your answer be different if you thought it was coming from a female?
In terms of going into the stuff? No, you still have to go into the stuff.
Cool.
Well played, because the person's name is cool. All right.
No, actually, my cool says, I appreciate your reading and answering my question. I am good at introspection, but sex was scary for me. I will bite the bullet and work through it.
No, you do. And it's not bite the bullet in the moment. You bite the bullet beforehand to do the work. It's just like people say, well, Sven, what tools can you give me so that when I get in fights with my spouse, arguments with my spouse, I can cool myself down? Well, yeah, there are tools for that, but that's not really what I specialize in. What I specialize in is doing the work ahead of time so that I'm decharging myself ahead of time, so that I'm getting less charge in the moment, and it doesn't require as much charging or decharging in the moment. You've got all these emotional charges in you. If you're doing the releasing work and you're doing the flushing in advance, getting the crud out of your love cup, going into those memories and flushing out the feelings that accompany those memories, which is the ugly, scary stuff that you don't want to touch. The more I'm doing it in advance, the less crud I have, the less dynamite I have in my love cup that can be triggered and set off and exploded. Melinda Cameron says, so will writing do the same? No, that's what I'm talking about, Melinda, is journaling, writing. Yes, writing letters you don't send, journaling out all your fucking feelings towards this person, all these memories and how it felt, all of it. And you keep doing it until it's gone. And people say, oh, I could write a fucking book. Then write a fucking book. You keep writing until it's out. Either that or pay for it in fucking therapy. Someone says, yeah, and not bleeding it onto your partner. Well, see, that's another thing. You really got to be careful. In some relationships, some people can handle. So, for instance, I listen for a living. I take people's rocks out of their big rock bag on their back of all the crud that's happened to them. I take people's rocks from them. I do it for a living. I'm good at it. I know what to do with it when it's done. I know how to keep it from bogging me down. But this is what I do. But most people can't do that. They can listen to their partner's problems a little bit or their friend's problems a little bit, but they can't do a lot. And there's nothing wrong with that. I can't fix the plumbing in my house. I definitely can't fix the fucking electrical. Won't even touch it. Okay, there's shit I can't do, but this is something I could do. But if my girlfriend asked me to, hey, Sven, would you go down and, fix those, the wires fucking around in the fuse box? I'm like, no fucking way. No, don't ask me to do it. I'm scared just at the thought. Okay, well, that's how some people are with regard to taking on their partner's emotions. So don't use your partner as your emotional dumping ground, and don't use your child as your psychologist. That should go without saying if you've read my book. Okay? And so the point is, yes, you can share some, but your partner doesn't exist to carry your problems. You've got to find a source for that, and that's what therapists are for. That's what a pad of paper and a pen is for, to flush your own shit out. Now, on the other hand, can you expect your partner to listen some? Yeah, it's called just being a decent fucking person. But you can't expect your partner to be your fucking therapist. No, that's not fair. Nor should you have to be your partner's therapist. Okay.
This was a lively discussion. Why don't we also talk about the discussions that happen on Community Plus?
Well, and that's another thing. Community Plus is, for those of you who don't know, Community Plus, we've actually got some of the members on the chat here in Lightning Round. Community Plus is the subscription-based limited enrollment growth and support group over on badasscounseling.com. We've got a group on Facebook. It's 40,000+ members. All right. It's the Badass Counseling Group. What Community Plus, though, is it's capped at 1,000. All right. And presently it's not even near 1,000. It's less than that. And there's room. But what it is, it's a much more intimate experience. And there are so many free things on there. Drawings every month for small group counseling with me. Drawings every month for one-on-one counseling with me. There are free do-it-yourself videos, and all of this for a monthly subscription. And there's a sense of community. There are small group clusters in these small group sessions. People really get to know each other intimately and feel much more comfortable sharing their stuff. There's a live feed. You can share your successes. You can share your failures. You can be silent. You can be anonymous. But it's really this neat thing. Plus, you get a priority pass for being considered for counseling. If you're wanting counseling, you go right up to the top of the waiting list. Priority pass for coming on to the Badass Counseling Show, being considered to come onto the Badass Counseling Show as a guest to be counseled. So there's just so many opportunities. So yeah, that's a great question. Community Plus, that's over on the website, badasscounseling.com.
I think it's great that you're doing it, Sven.
Well, thank you. We're just trying to provide more opportunities for people to get their needs met. That's why we put so much work into this podcast.
This show provides soul counseling intended to entertain and inform, and is not medical advice. Now, back to the badass.
And we are back with Lightning Round of the Badass Counseling Show. Great to have everyone here. All right. And CC Sunshine on Facebook says, my father put so much shame on my mind about women and sex that I'm unable to enjoy it at all. Is there a way to reverse that? Oh, there absolutely is. In fact, anyone who works and does any sort of work in therapy, as a therapist, as a counselor, some clergy, and especially sex therapists, that's the bulk of their work right there, is the shame that gets attached to sexuality. And you don't even have to grow up in a shaming household, as you did, obviously, and I'm sorry for that. I did not grow up in that type of home. I grew up in a religious home, but not the shaming kind at all. And yet, here we are in a society, nonetheless, at least in the United States, that is very much a shame, that shames sexuality. And so you ask, is there a way to reverse all of that? Absolutely. Absolutely. I have clients who are monogamous, some serial monogamous, some polyamorous. I've had tons of all sorts over the decades, and so many of them are coming out of shame. And it's just like anything else. You go into where those origins are. You go into where those messaging, the bullshit beliefs you were taught about yourself, the bullshit beliefs you were taught about sexuality, yourself as a woman, and how fucking stupid your dad was for putting that shit in you. fucking troglodyte shit, right? That's why I wrote the book, There's a Hole in My Love Cup. It's to walk you through to the going down into determining what those core beliefs were that you were taught about yourself, about sexuality, about your own body, and to begin the process of excising those, cutting those out. You ask, is there a way to reverse it? Yes, there are actually many ways. One of those, of course, is using a sex therapist. Another one is getting down there in, when we are children, we are wet cement, and messages get pressed into that wet cement. In your case, some of the messaging is about sexuality and shame and you're bad and your body is dirty and those sorts of things. Those messages can be extracted, and it doesn't have to take forever. We're not talking about a process that has to take years. It's not a process of time. It's a process of depth. And the deeper you go, actually, the faster this process can happen. But it requires a willingness to go into the pain. It requires a willingness to go in and look at the real shit that's going on inside of you. And again, that's what I wrote the book for. There's a Hole in My Love Cup. You can get it at badasscounseling.com. It's to walk you down in there and begin to identify the messages, and then it gives you the tools for excising those messages. All right, next question. Here we go. Devil Blues 11 says over on TikTok, "Hi, Sven. Hi. I noticed you didn't say hi to Rob. What's the deal here?"
She said hello to me over on YouTube.
Get out of here.
I'm serious.
Well, God bless you for being polite. Devil Blues gets a gold star in politeness. So Devil Blues 11 says, "Hi, Sven. Hi. How do we deal with our partner not showing up for us on special occasions, making excuses?" Okay. First of all, I'm sorry you have to deal with that. There are a few things in life, in a relationship, worse than knowing fundamentally that your partner doesn't give a shit. And you are dealing with a partner who doesn't give a shit. Their actions are conveying loud and clear, "I don't care." And you want to know what makes it really fucked up? It's one thing if they're saying, "I don't care" through their actions in the day to day. So every morning when I wake up, I usually wake up, 4 or 5 o'clock. If I have to go to the gym, because my gym opens at 5, I'll usually have my first client by 8 or 9. So I want to get a workout in. If it's a light workout or a heavy workout, I really have to be there then. But my girlfriend rolls out of bed at like 7:30 or 8. And I like to have her cup of coffee for her, bring it up to her in bed. All right. Why? Makes me happy. I don't know. So I carry it up and put it on next to her bed. If she's awake, great. If not, I put it in a little Yeti and she has it then. I'm conveying I give a shit. Now, if I stop doing that, especially after doing it now for 11 years, it would convey, I don't really care so much. Or if she asked me, "Sven, please, please, please put the cap back on the toothpaste," or "Please, Sven, will you take your shoes off in the house?" Now, that's one I don't compromise on. I wear my shoes in the fucking house because I just do. I mean, unless they're muddy. But otherwise, for most shit, if I blew her off in the small things, here's where I'm going with this. If I blew her off in the small things, it would be easy for her to get annoyed, but not take it as he doesn't give a shit about me. But to blow someone off in the big stuff, the special occasions, where it's so obvious and it's so easy. You can fuck somebody off the whole year, but to not show up on their birthday, you can not do the little things, and it's easy to misinterpret it or reinterpret it as, well, he's just gotten into certain ways. But to fuck off a birthday, to fuck off Christmas, to whatever, that's just a giant fuck you. I don't care. He is conveying to you loud and clear, Devil Blues, I don't care. And you ask, how do I deal with it? I'm not sure what you're asking to deal with. I know what you're fundamentally saying is you want him to change. So I'm assuming you're asking me, how do I get him to change? You're not asking, how do I deal with it? In other words, how do I deal with my feelings, knowing he's not doing it? In all likelihood, he ain't going to change. He may change once you decide you're actually fucking leaving. Then he'll be like, all fucking kumbaya and fucking, rainbows out his fucking arse. Yeah, and that'll be fucking temporary. But the bottom line is, that's not what you're asking. You're asking, how do I get him to change? He's not going to fucking change until there's a pain point. So how do you deal? You're being faced, Devil Blues. What you are being faced with is a crossroads. And the crossroads is, what am I about? What do I actually fucking want? Do I want to stay in a relationship with someone where you're not hearing it first from me. You know inside of you that he doesn't give a fuck. And it hurts and you don't want to face it, but you're faced with it every day. And the decision you're being faced with is, why the fuck am I still in a relationship with someone who does not give a shit about me? It's because you want it. You don't want to let go. You're terrified to let it go. Somewhere in here, there is some grand fear. You're still hoping he'll change, but there's no pain point. He has no incentive to change. And even if there is a pain point, say, of you leaving, he still may not change other than in some flimsy action that will be easy to spring back from. But he has no desire to change the core beliefs down deep inside of him that are driving those actions. You've got to decide what you're really about. Do you ultimately want to honor yourself and go for what's going to make you happy? If so, it's going to require passing through your greatest fears. And that's the price. And it sucks. And I'm sorry you're in that spot. But that's where you're at.
Hey, Sven, I've heard of situations for couples sort of like that, in which there is an important event to go to. And one partner says, I'll go. I don't want to go. I will go if it's important to you, but you're going to owe me. Is that even worse, maybe?
Yeah, it is. Because it's like, really?
Just a little transactional.
Right, really. Yeah, it's just transactional. I'm only doing this for you and you're going to owe me. It's just like, this is what our relationship has degenerated to, transactions. It's just another form of fuck you. I don't want to be here. I'm just doing it for you. And by the way, I'm going to collect on that shit later. It's just like, fuck off. But it's not even a question of about them. It's a question about me. Why am I choosing to stay in this? What is the fear operating inside of me that causes me to want to stay in a relationship where I'm being treated this way? And part of what keeps us in it is we've never tasted what an actual good relationship is. And once you've actually tasted like a really decent relationship where you're not being treated this way, it's like, oh my God. Once you do taste that, it's like, oh my God, I can't believe I tolerated that shit. And it's easy to beat yourself up, but it's just like, oh my God, I've waited so long to have a relationship where I'm actually being appreciated, but also where I'm standing up for myself. And you won't actually be treated well until you have the courage to stand up for yourself and insist that you be treated well. All right, next question. April TBD says, taking new clients? Yes. Go to badasscounseling.com, read the counseling page, and then reach out to my assistant, Kate, on the contact page. Next question. Jen, I'm not saying the little things don't matter. Jen Larson says, I disagree. It's the little things that matter. They're so important. I'm not saying they don't. I'm simply saying the clarity that you have when somebody fucks off the big stuff, something as easy as a birthday, it gives such clarity. I'm not saying small stuff doesn't matter. I'm saying it's easy to dismiss small stuff. Say, oh, it's not a big deal. Oh, it's not a big deal. I know he still loves me. I know she still loves me. She just forgets. No, small stuff absolutely matters. All right, next question. Oh, this is a great question. And it dovetails right into what we've been talking about. Carrie Lane Rudd says, how does one stop rationalizing when negative things happen? Well, you're rationalizing because of fear. You guys got to understand that with most of the questions that you have in your life regarding your own soul shit, regarding your own struggles in your relationships or inside your self, and it's true of me, it's true of every one of us, like 90% of the shit, if not 100% of the shit, finds its origin, or at least a significant part of its origin, in fear. It's like I always tell people, as I say in the book, there's a hole in my love cup. Anytime you're trying to understand why someone's doing something that doesn't make sense, even if it's yourself, always ask yourself the question. What's the question, you guys? What's the primary fear driving the behavior? Then speculate the answers and go with the biggest, hairiest, scariest one. It's always fear. So Carrie Lane Rudd asks, how does one stop rationalizing when negative things happen? Okay, so you've got a behavior that you're trying to sort out. And my question to you is, what's the primary fear driving the behavior? I guarantee you are rationalizing when negative things happen. I'm assuming by your partner. When someone treats you poorly, you're rationalizing it. Why? Because you are afraid of something. And in all likelihood, if you're not standing up when someone is treating you poorly, or when bad things are happening, it's because you are afraid of standing up for yourself. You are afraid of the confrontation. You are afraid that they won't like you. You are afraid that they will walk away from you. You are afraid that you'll be alone. You're afraid that you won't have someone. Somewhere in there, or you'll have to manage life on your own. You'll have to come up with your own income. There are fears in there, and you name what those fears might be, and then pick out the biggest one. And more often than not, and it's not always this, More often than not, it's a money-related issue, or much, much deeper, much more powerfully, it's that I would then not have someone. And we think, yeah, I'd have to be alone. No, it's deeper than that. What does it mean to not have someone? See, if I have someone, even if it's a shitty relationship, I have someone who's putting some love into my love cup. And I'm not even saying they're pouring it like a whole ewer full of like love with water. No, maybe they're only putting in one fucking capful, 1 teaspoonful, 2 teaspoons full. If you've got that though, and you're not used to getting a lot of love in your life, maybe you were conditioned to always give love as a child, for you to get even 2 teaspoons full, oh man, you're going to hold on to that person. If I don't have someone, then I'm alone. And what happens if this person who just gives me 2 teaspoons full of love every now and then, if they leave, guess what happens inside of me? All those messages I was taught about my worth come roaring back up inside of me. Right? See, I ain't worth a shit. See, I'm alone. I'm no good. They left me. See, I'm unwantable. Oh, I'm no good. I'm such a loser. I'm too fat. Oh, I'm too fucking skinny. Just like Dad always said. Oh, I ended up being just a fucking loser, just like Mom always said I would be. All those messages from your childhood. I'm not good enough. No one will ever love me. All those messages come roaring back up. So it's not the idea of being alone per se. It's that I don't have someone here. And when I have someone, even if they're abusing me, we had someone on the show earlier tonight. We did a counseling episode. And this person was in a relationship with a spouse where the spouse wrapped a car around a tree, stole money from them, and whatever else it was, all the shit to them. And the person is basically confirming what I'm telling you right now. But at least I've got someone here, because as long as you are here, you are a buffer between me and those messages deep inside of me that say, I suck. More often than not, when we don't want someone to leave us, it's because we don't want to be left alone with those messages from our fucking childhood that say, I'm no good. See, I'm not good enough. See, I'm unwantable. See, I don't matter. All right, next question. TI9903 says, why won't I believe he doesn't care when he keeps disrespecting me? It's the exact same thing. It's fear. You are terrified to see the truth. You don't want to look at the truth that your husband keeps disrespecting you, or boyfriend, whichever it is. Why won't I believe he doesn't care when he keeps disrespecting me? You don't want to believe it. Oftentimes we will believe in a lie because the truth is so hard to bear. You want to believe that he does care. Maybe you want to believe he does care because you want to believe that the last 10 years has not been a waste. Or you want to believe that he does care because that confirms your worth. But if I believe he doesn't care, that means, oh, see, another person doesn't care about me. See, I'm never going to find love. See, I'm a loser. It's the exact same shit. Fear of those voices inside that come roaring back up. And the funny thing is that you think you're the problem. See, this is the problem. When we internalize how someone else treats us, see, I must be the problem. Rather than, what if they're the problem? What if there is no problem? What if they just are in their own fucking world and they don't want to be with me anymore? Well, we assume if someone doesn't want to be with me or doesn't want to be married or doesn't whatever, that I must be the problem. And what if you never were the problem? Rob, give me your question.
I'll give you a song lyric. What have I done to deserve such a fate? I realize I have left it too late. And that's from I'm a Loser.
Like, I'm a loser, baby. Why don't you kill me?
No, it's the Beatles. But same thing.
They had a song titled I'm a Loser?
Yeah, Lennon. He was not a loser, but he loved singing about it.
No shit.
Yeah. Realize I have left it too late.
Wow.
Interesting, right?
That's very interesting.
Yeah. Here's a good one from Heidi Miller on YouTube, who says, hi, Sven. I've been with a man for 5 years. He has a 20-year-old son who lives with him, and he does everything for. Mm-hmm. I don't know what to do because I don't want to be saddled with this kid, but he's a good man.
And so fundamentally, I don't like the way he treats his 20-year-old son.
He doesn't want to be saddled with the kid.
And by saddled with the kid, presumably, see, that's an interesting one. In other words, I don't want to get stuck having to serve this kid as well. Like our whole fucking life is about serving this kid.
Yeah, she doesn't like all the attention that the kid gets from the dad, and the kid is 20.
But wait a minute. This breaks one of two ways. Is it I don't like all the attention that the dad gets from the kid and that I'll get roped into having to do the same goddamn thing? Or I don't like all the attention that the dad gives the kid because it's less attention for me. And I fear that if I go further into a relationship, that he's going to be the third wheel in this fucking relationship and I'm going to get jacked on attention.
Yeah, it looks like the dad does everything for the kid.
Well, I understand that, but what I'm wondering about is her fear that she will have to start doing everything for the kid, or is her fear that he is going to give more attention to the kid and less attention to her?
I think that second one is probably right.
Right, and you need to assume, based on existing situation, that that will be the case. But what you have to do first is ask him. That is a perfectly legitimate thing to talk about. However, you have to do it from the perspective of, I'm not judging, even though you kind of are a little bit, if we're being honest. But just say to him, listen, how you raise your 20-year-old son is your business. Because let's be honest, it is. It ain't your fucking business. You don't get to tell another human being how to raise their child. I mean, short of like abuse, obviously. But you don't get to tell him how to raise his child. So even if his child is 20 or 40, it's his kid. That's a relationship that's been there long before you came around. Now, do you like it? No, obviously you don't. But you can go to him and say, and reveal your honest fears. I fear that I will get roped into making it all about your son, and or I fear that your son is going to command more of the attention of yours than I am, and I don't want that.
She says it's not less attention for me, it's the enabling.
Wait, but how does the enabling impact you is the question. What the fuck do you care? And I'm not trying to be rude. I'm asking, what the fuck do you care if he enables the son? How does that impact you other than, gee, I don't like to look at it? I don't like to look at horror movies, so I don't go to horror movies. But what is that? What is the impact of him enabling his son on you specifically? You got 15 seconds to give an answer, then we got to go on to a new one. Normally, we don't give this many feedbacks on one answer, but it's a good question, so I want to help you.
All right, here we go from Heidi. You ready?
Yep.
Follow up from Heidi. They moved in with me and had to move back out because his kid laid hands on my boys. They are 9 and 11 years old.
Well, now this is the issue. Come on now, Heidi. You're playing a little sleight of hand cat and mouse there.
She buried the lead, I think.
You buried the lead, right? And I'm not dogging you for it, but you got to admit, the real thing isn't the enabling of the son. The real thing is that 20-year-old's a fucking shithead to smaller children, and dad, it sounds like, covered for his son, and you're trying to defend the victim, these younger kids. That's the real problem. And yeah, you're right. In that situation, now, if we were just a dad fucking, taking care of his 20-year-old son and doing everything for him, that's one thing. But that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about a dad enabling a 20-year-old son laying hands on a 9-year-old kid. I mean, no. And so what's her what was the original question then? How do you deal with it? You stand up to the fucking dad and say, listen, dude, I love you. I think you're great. I think you would make a fantastic husband, but there is zero, or a boyfriend, there is zero chance in hell I'm going to have a relationship with anyone who defends a 20-year-old laying hands on a 9-year-old.
And she says, correct, you nailed it. I don't see a future, even though he's a good man and is good to me.
But that raises the most interesting question. If you are that clear in your response right now, after this thread of multiple questions, why did you ask the question in the first place? And there's no shame. I'm not dogging you for it, Heidi. But if you have that much clarity at the end, why even ask the question in the first place? It almost implies, Sven, I just want some feedback to make it clear for me. But it's so clear for you at the end. It implies it was clear for you at the beginning, but you didn't trust yourself, Heidi. Why don't you trust yourself, Heidi? Why? What is the origin of you not trusting yourself, especially on something that you know is so fucking clear? Who is the original person that taught you to distrust yourself? Now you're getting into your deepest fucking journaling shit Why? Because on something so obvious as a 20-year-old laying hands on a 9-year-old and his old man defending that, where it's so obvious, you're questioning yourself, that means you've got a deeply embedded message inside yourself that is saying, don't trust your own inner voice, don't trust your own inner voice, even when it's something so obvious. So you've got some journaling to do there, young lady, and that's all right. Have a kick-ass day. All right, on to a couple more questions before we maybe call it a day here. All right. I had one queued up. Somebody was sort of barking at me to answer their question. Answer my question, Sven. And I was looking for it and couldn't find it. Somebody asked, April TBD asked, what is love bombing? And it's one thing you can actually simply Google, and you could, but I'm going to comment on it. Love bombing, it's a new thing. You know, all these new terminology. I never realized how annoying I must have been when I was like 17 and 20 with all the new language we had for words for shit. Like, I don't know, one we had in 6th grade was dece. That's dece, man. I guess it was short for decent. That's early 80s shit, right? Not later 80s, whatever the words were then. But anyway, we had all these words. We must have sounded so stupid because there's so many stupid words out nowadays. Anyway, I have people online in comments calling me a simp. Simp. I actually have grown men like with gray beards saying, oh man, you're such a simp. And I'm like, dude, and you're a fucking moron for using, what are you, 12? Simp? It's like, what? You trying to fit in with the 20-year-olds, you fucking dipshit? Anyway, sorry. Not sorry. I like that phrase, not sorry. That's a clever little one.
Sorry,
anyway.
not sorry.
Yeah. Love bombing, short answer is you get in a relationship and somebody's just like slathering on the love and being so nice and they're being all about you. But love bombing is a term that is only generally used in retrospect. How do you know it's love bombing until after they stop doing it? Because what if someone just loves at that level? You want to know? You want to know something interesting? Do you want to know what my girlfriend said to me today? She said, Sven, 11 years later, people, you're the boyfriend I never knew I always wanted. Now, I know, but I know what's his name, the dead friend from Friends. He said that in one of the movies he was in. So it may not be an original line, but she said it. And she said, like, I didn't know guys like you were there. You're so generous. And so probably blowing smoke up my ass, and she'll collect the chit on that letter. She'll probably want something. No, I'm kidding. She's very generous. But the point is, some people just naturally give a lot of love at higher levels. So is it love bombing if it keeps going? No, it's not. It's not. It's just some people just give at higher levels. They're just naturally generous people who give and give and give and give and give and don't really stop because they enjoy it. So then it's not love bombing anymore. Love bombing is only love bombing when it stops and then the person shifts into sort of taking or being mean or withdrawing. Okay? So love bombing is technically only something you can see in the rearview mirror. Okay. And so what love bombing is generally understood to be is that someone overgives in the beginning and then they use it as a manipulative tool to get you under their control and get their needs met and fuck with you. Okay. But do you want to know what the antidote to love bombing is, or really anything? The antidote to red flags? The antidote to most shit in dating? The antidote, fine people, is to heal your own fucking past. And you're like, Sven, you're so fucking predictable. That's like your answer to everything. No, it wasn't my answer to stupid phrases coming from young people nowadays like simp. No, it wasn't. Wasn't my answer on sexuality. Oh, it was. But on some of the answers, it isn't that. But it is my answer on this. You want to know why? Because here's what happens. When you've actually healed, for instance, what was normalized in your childhood growing up. So let's say in your childhood growing up, one of the things that was quite normal was high conflict and being rude. If that was normalized in your childhood and you're now dating in your mid to late 20s and you got some person, they're nice and so on and so forth, but occasionally they're rude to people, it's not going to be a red flag to you. Or you'll notice it, but you'll let it go because, gosh, they're so nice, or he has such a cute butt, or did you see the rack on her? Okay, you're going to let it go, potentially. because you just really want this relationship. And you can deal with it because it's within your realm of normal. I grew up dealing with conflict and rudeness. This guy's nothing compared to that. Oh, and there's the mistake, isn't it? Because little things become big things. Right. And so what happens is you nip love bombing in the bud when it starts to slip, or you nip red flags in the bud by having already done your healing work so that you are aware of inside of yourself a shift in someone. Or when someone is doing something that hurts, when someone is doing something that doesn't feel good or feels off, you nip it in the bud right there and you address it. And it's not that they're love bombing. I mean, everybody is more charming in the beginning. That's not really that unusual, all right? Doesn't mean there's ill intent. But if they start treating you poorly, you nip it in the bud right away, rather than thinking, oh, it'll go away, or I'll change them, or it's no big deal. You don't do that. You nip it in the bud and you talk about it. And you're only able to do that because you've healed your own past. And the more you nip it in the bud, the more it doesn't have a chance to grow, to metastasize into a full-blown cancer. So the antidote to red flags, the antidote to love bombing, the antidote to getting in a full-blown narcissistic relationship is to have healed your own past, that you are listening to your own intuition and you are having the courage to act on it. Okay. I'm going to take about 2 more questions, and then it's going to be time to go to bed because I have an early morning and I am having a sleep study done tomorrow, or a pre-meeting for a sleep study. Rob, you got something maybe over there?
I got one that will probably provoke a quick answer here from Jennifer Gray,
okay,
who says, why is it when I have accepted the fact that I may not ever be in a relationship again, do men start coming out of the woodwork? Yeah, because you're not desperate.
That's it. And it's just like, I was listening, one of the guys that I follow on TikTok, he's a marketing guy, long time experience. He's in his 50s. He's called Brand Boss. And he's marketing just on the business side. It helps me. And one of his TikToks came up today, and he was interviewing a gentleman who's a sales pro. And this old, salty old dog sales pro was saying, I don't care if I get the sale. And he says, I don't. And the guy went on to say, I don't try to trick myself and pretend like I don't care if I get the sale. I literally don't care. And he was talking about that. And the effect of that is when you don't care if you get the sale when you're in sales, do you know what it does for your vibe? It just changes. You're fucking relaxed. You're just fucking relaxed. All right. It's the same way when someone doesn't care if I go out on a date, or I don't care if you like me, you're going to be fucking relaxed. You're going to be more yourself. It's when, I got to have someone. I got to go on a date. I need you to like me. That's when we're uptight. That's when we start closing down. That's when we start selling what we're going to reveal to you and not reveal. That's when we start trying to manipulate a situation. That's when our anxiety oozes out of our fucking pores. And you can feel people's energy. Women, if you're ever in a bar, can you sense when somebody's going to walk up and ask you out? Oftentimes you can, right? There's the class, or how about this? There's the classic sort of, used car salesman, right? They're just kind of slimy. I actually sold used cars for a while. That's kind of funny. I actually new car, but we had used cars on the lot. And so a little bit of both, right? I am slimy, right? But I did take a bath today, so I'm clean, slimy. Anyway, the point is people have energy, and you can feel it. And some people can fake clean energy or try. But have you ever met a person who's phony nice? Phony, kumbaya, namaste, float on air, la la la. And it's bullshit. It's fucking bullshit. But then there are those people that just burn clean energy, and you feel it and you're attracted to them. Okay? And you begin to be able to feel people's energy more, and people can feel your energy. And when you care less about how people think, and not just, I could care less what people think. No, that's angry energy. But where you've done the work of healing yourself and flushing out your anxieties and your fears, man, you just walk through life with there's like this gracefulness about you. Whether you're a guy or a woman or they or whatever, there's just a gracefulness about you.
Jennifer says, LOL, I'm tired of married men asking me out.
Really?
There we go.
Well, welcome to the history of humanity. And I'm tired of people telling me my feet stink, but alas, that's what the gods gave me. And the last question of the day is going to be this. All right. Emma 2126 says, how do I love me while loving someone else? It's easier if you've been taught to not love you, very often it's easier to love someone else. Why? Because that's what you were conditioned to do. You were conditioned in your childhood that your only worth or what you should do in life is to give love to someone else. The reason you can't love yourself is because you were conditioned to believe you are not worthy of love. You're not good enough. You're unwantable. You're not enough. And so your authentic self is stuffed way down deep inside. And so you become whatever you got to become and you serve everyone else. Maybe then in exchange, then they'll give me a little bit of love. I talk about it in the book. And those of you that read the book know exactly which chapter I'm talking about. I'm talking about being a relationship camel or a love camel, where you can go a long distance on a little bit of love. Just like a camel can go a long distance on a little bit of water or a little bit of fat in their hump, right? Exactly. How do you love me? By going down deep inside to identify those original messages that taught you you suck. You can't fight those messages. I don't care how many fucking gratitude letters you write, how many gratitude lists of I love the sunshine and I love the flowers. That's like a temporary little drug. And I mean, I've got nothing against gratitude lists, but that is not a solution. That's like a hit of a drug that doesn't last very long. The solution is to go down deep inside and find the root of the problem. The solution is to go down and find the origins of, not just the message itself, but the origins of the message. And that means confronting inside of yourself. You don't ever have to confront anybody, any human being in real life. You don't have to confront your mom, your dad, your grandfather, whoever. But you have to confront those voice inside of yourself. You have to look at the truth of what really happened, that whoever was in charge of you taught you to believe you are unwantable, taught you to believe you are unlovable, that you don't matter. And you have to really go down there and begin to face that. And you may think, oh, I can do that, until you realize, wait a minute, my parent taught a 6-year-old child to believe that they are unlovable. Who the actual fuck does that to a child? You begin to see how this is really scary fucking work. And this is why I hear this shit all the time. Rob, you know this. I hear this shit all the time. People say, Sven, I bought your book and for 6 months it sat on my bedstand. I couldn't bear to pick it up. Sven, I read the introduction to your book and I had sat there in my book cabinet for 2 months. I was so scared to keep going. This is scary shit. I have people who are policemen, who have been in military, special forces, done tours in war. People who have seen all manner of shit in life say, Sven, the work that you do and taking me down into the shit from my past is the scariest work I've ever done in my life, period, hands down. But if you want to heal, this is it. Again, it doesn't have to take forever. Transformation can be immediate if you go deep enough. All right, fine people. Oh, guess what? It is accomplished.
Yes.
Cursum perficio.
All right.
It is accomplished. All right.
Sometimes I'm scared to edit the show because I hear what you're saying and I say, oh shit, that applies to me. I don't want to hear this.
Exactly. I don't want to listen to the show because I want to listen to that guy. That was an old line from Hogan's Heroes once. Schultz, would you invite you to a party? No, I wouldn't. No. Rob, yes. Any thoughts this evening?
Yeah, the new words that I had when I was in college back in the 60s and early 70s, those new words were hassle and bummer. Nobody had ever used those words before. Bummer. Hassle and bummer, 2 words that I would never apply to this podcast.
Well, wait a minute, Rob. Bummer, I thought bummer was like a late 70s, 80s thing.
Oh, no.
That was 60s?
No, and there was a Sonny Boy Williamson album at that time called Bummer Road.
Really?
That might have been where it became popular, I'm not sure. But when you said, oh, that's a bummer, people would laugh because this was a new thing at the time.
Well, and you remember, there's another word. Do you remember when Happy Days is on? What word did we get from Happy Days?
Hey.
Well, that. And then if someone was like, what's the word we got? The other word we got.
I don't remember.
If someone was a real geek, we called them, on Happy Days, they were called a nerd.
Oh, well, we used nerd back in the 60s in engineering school, but we spelled it N-U-R-D.
Oh, I thought that was strictly from Happy Days. Oh, but Happy Days predated it back to the 50s because it was a 50s set show. Because I had never heard of it prior to watching that. And then, of course...
May have been an anachronism, I'm not sure.
But no, they were presetting it because, it was a 70s show about the 50s.
Right.
And then what's her name calls Potsy a dren because he's not a nerd. He's a nerd backwards. He's a dren.
Yeah.
Who is Ralph, not Ralph's, Richie's sister.
Joni.
Fell in love with Potsy and called him a dren.
Yeah.
So there's that. Yeah, you guys, this has been fun. I have to tell you, can I share a little secret with you guys? I bring myself a treat sometimes for the show. We taped 3 shows tonight, and I brought myself a gin and tonic. And I did not sip it until we just finished the last question. That is what we call...
A professional.
Well, yeah, abstinence. I done it. I did not think I'd done it. But now a buddy of mine, he has a podcast, and he has, his glass of wine, or whatever he has, his cocktail, scotch, whatever, as he's doing it. And I used to do that on this show, and then some fucking fucknut or two got up my ass about it, so whatever. Anyway, any final thoughts, Rob? I don't know when we're going to be in studio again.
Well, I'm sure we'll find a way.
Yeah? I don't know if I have any final thoughts. I think we've covered all topics. And I hope you guys are you not entertained? I hope you've had a happy evening. I hope you get a good night of rest. If you're down below the equator, I hope your winter is just starting because mine's going to be coming to an end soon. So suck it. No, I'm just kidding.
Charming guy. Yeah.
Charming guy indeed. You guys, we love you. Just a few heads up. We are just posting now the French version of There's a Hole in My Love Cup is now going to be available on the website in both paperback form and on audiobook. We have the Spanish version. We also I have a German translation coming, so it'll be available in Spanish, Canadian French, France French, German, and of course, Sven's crappy English. We're hoping to have Mandarin coming and Swedish and a few other languages as well. But those are all coming out. Everything is available at badasscounseling.com, especially Community Plus. If you are in need of a community, a growth and healing community, and that operates at a higher level, that's at badasscounseling.com, as is Badass Wisdom, the 365-day meditation and inspirational sort of journal book, DIY video courses, and of course, the signature piece of it all, which is the Badass Counseling Show, which is what we were taping tonight. And it is available on Spotify, Audible, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and YouTube, and almost any place that you get your podcast. On behalf of my most bitchin' team, if we're taking terms from different eras, on behalf of my most bitchin' team, KC over in the booth, who is never bitchin' in a bad way, and Rob the Rocket, I'm Sven Erlandson. Have a kick-ass day.
The Badass Counseling Show is strictly copyrighted. No copies may be made without the express written consent of the Badass Counseling Show, LLC. The Badass Counseling Show is produced by Karen Camparelli and Robert H. Friedman. Executive producer Sven Erlandson. Original music by 2-time Emmy Award-winning composer Trevor Morris. Have a kick-ass day.